Welcome back. 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 How you guys? How you guys doing? We're back with another little AFL documentary. Shout out to my man Jagger, the greatest AFL club of all time. Potential. Hey, I'm looking forward to what this greatest club is. I do enjoy his videos, but we're back with another AFL video. Hopefully, you guys are doing good, amazing, awesome, pretty, lovely. But without further ado, let's go and get started with the video. The greatest AFL club of all time. Your boys looking forward to it, man. Your boys looking forward to it. Let's go.
Looks to me like the same old way of sacking the coach when it was dressed up as something else.
Damn.
No, I don't think their culture's right at all.
Whoever's running that football club has got no idea how to run a football club.
They attacking.
Week in, weekend. Have a look at that.
They attacking early. They don't give a crap.
Free agency. The soul-shattering method of player movement bemoaned by supporters of old and a sports journalist day out. Free agency is criticised in leagues around the world as an unfair advantage that destroys any semblance of fairness between the good and bad teams in the league. Although compared to the big American leagues, the AFL's geographical club culture and history lends itself to loyalty. Nonetheless, free agency has seemingly been rolling out the red carpet for the AFL stars to move to big clubs on big money since 2012. However, despite its introduction, the last 20 years of AFL has seen an almost perfect example of what a balanced league can look like. We've had multiple dynasties and young teams come from nowhere to make dashing runs at a
43-0.
We've had drought-breaking fairy tales, and we've had droughts that tragically still remain. But what is more impressive is the last 2 decades has seen almost every team in the league make it deep into September. The Gold Coast Suns aside, you could make the case that every single team has had a genuine chance to finish the year as a premier.
Yeah.
This balance is supported in the numbers. Combining the latter results of the last 20 years, you can see that
So average ladder position from 01 to 2021. So Geelong has always been like a top 5 team. Like Geelong has always been a top 5 team. I don't think there's top 5 this year. Sydney, I think Sydney was around that 6, 7, 8 spot. Port Adelaide was up there. West Coast and Hawthorn both didn't have good seasons. But like I said, you're not going to have a 20-year dynasty like the freaking Patriots. With Brady and them.
2/3 of the league have come within, on average, 7th to 10th each year, indicating equal time at the top and bottom of the ladder.
Richmond,
an extraordinary achievement on the back of the introduction of free agency.
The Western Bulldogs, 10th. Brisbane, 10th. That means a lot of success has started to come recently. I do think their success has started to come recently anyway.
From the 2001 season to the 2021 season, this team has finished with an average ladder position of 13th, and a measly 8 wins per year, which can only be described as the single biggest disappointment in the AFL across that time.
Who's that, Carlton?
And amazingly, they also happen to be one of the biggest clubs in the game. While there are many ways to measure success, ultimately an AFL club can and will be measured by its ability to achieve the ultimate prize, being the last team standing in September. And to put it nicely, some teams have done this more than others. Although weighted heavily by the early years of the league before the introduction of the national competition, the Big Six, Melbourne, Carlton, Collingwood, Richmond, Hawthorn and Essendon, have combined to win 85.
I said Carlton. Carlton's one of the best teams in the AFL history-wise.
5 of the 123 premierships the league has seen. Only a touch under 70%. In further representation of their dominance, those teams were also the runner-up 62% of the time across those years. Such is this dominance that fans of these teams justifiably have an appetite for success and are quick to criticise their club when they underperform. So that is why at the end of the 2021 season, it is the fans of the Carlton Football Club who are crying out for dramatic change to see their team return to where it once
was. It was Carlton. I was right.
So, where did it all go wrong?
Talk to us.
Coming out of the millennium, Carlton is looking every bit the powerhouse club that their history would suggest they are. The legendary David Parkin returns to coach the club from 91 until 2000, and Carlton is a mainstay of the finals throughout most of this time. They win a flag in 87, and to this day a league best 16th premiership in 95, as well as coming runner-up in 93 and 99. But as on-field performances fall away quickly in 2002, the club wins the Wooden Spoon for the first time in its VFL-AFL history. And when it rains, it pours.
Yeah.
And the club is hit by one of the biggest scandals in modern AFL history.
The cash behind Carlton's salary cap scandal. Doesn't look good. Does not look good.
It's revealed that Carlton has been systematically cheating the league salary cap during the early 2000s, making
It is a salary cap scandal that continues to haunt Carlton, and it has been revealed by the Herald Sun that more than 7,500,000 was stuffed in brown paper bags over a 5-year period. Golly! On the eve of the draft, they was fined $1 million stripped of all of its first, second round picks. Yeah. So they was just, oh, that's lame. That's lame. But I can't make any assumptions yet. But from what I've read, that's pretty lame. But we gotta hear
the
some
table
more.
payments to 4 players: Craig Bradley, Stephen Silvani, Stephen O'Reilly, and Fraser Brown.
Why?
The breaches, which the AFL described as deliberate, elaborate, and sophisticated, results in hefty and never-before-seen sanctions, with the loss of draft picks and a fine of $930,000.
God, imagine being a
For
supporter
a club
of
that
the
had been
club.
much slower than others to embrace the AFL draft, instead relying on older players on the list, this was a killer blow. Moreover, after footing the bill to build a new grandstand at Princess Park, the club is already feeling the financial pinch, and the largest fine in AFL history at the time doesn't make this any easier. To top it all off, with the majority of clubs transitioning to play their games at the higher capacity central venues, this new grandstand would soon find itself vacant, as the Blues played their last home game at the venue in 2005. So, for the first time in a long time, Carlton suck. But as one of the biggest clubs in the country, they have a reputation to uphold. Instead of looking inwards at the clear failures of the club at a management level, they pull the oldest trick in the book and fire their coach. Wayne Britton's out, and fresh off success at North Melbourne, Dennis Pagan is in. Predictably, on-field performance does not improve, and so the club that managed to avoid the Wooden Spoon for over 100 years would win 3 more in quick succession and
Hold
finish.
on, what is the wooden? What's the wooden spoon? I don't think I have ever gotten that. What is the wooden spoon? I don't think I've ever
the
gotten
bottom
that.
2 5 times between 02 and 07. Carlton briefly climbs up the ladder for short trips to the finals in 09, 2010 and 2011, and is gifted a trip to the postseason in 2013 off the back of the Essendon drug scandal. But after beating a tragic Richmond in the
Drug
first round,
scandal.
is soon on their way to Mad Monday again, and another long off-season. And that's it for the Blues. They don't even get close to sniffing the finals for the rest of the decade. And now, at the
Golly.
conclusion of the 2021 season, is the path to finals that much clearer than it was 10 years ago? So how does a team with such a decorated past become so mediocre? How does a team underperform so consistently? And how does a team let its fans down year after year?
Mate, what's going on at the Blues?
Carlton f***ing suck. Excuse my language.
No.
Let's start at the start. In theory, with all this time at the wrong end of the ladder, shouldn't Carlton have a squad full of some of the most talented juniors money can buy? Since 2001, Carlton have drafted in the first round 17 times, with
Jeez.
13 of those coming in the highly touted top 10.
Joe
Incredibly,
Daniels was a
This
top
would have
10
actually
pick.
been 20 if they were not stripped to pick 1 and pick 2 in
Okay, Joe.
2002 and pick 1 in 2003. Despite this, Carlton have had the honour 5 times to call out the first name off the board, which is more than any other team over this period, and even
God, they was dog shit. They had 5 number 1 overall picks. They was booty.
more than both expansion sides Gold Coast and GWS, whose draft concessions have been labelled as unfair and over the top. In 2003, the Blues took Andrew Walker at pick number 2. In 2004, they took Jordan Russell at number 9.
They had top
In
10
2005, they picked Mark Murphy at number 1 and Josh Kennedy at number 4. In 2006, they had the first pick again and took Bryce Gibbs. In 2007, they took Matthew Cruiser at pick number 1. In 2008, they took Chris Yarran at pick number 6. In 2009, they took Kane Lucas at pick number 12. In 2012, they picked Troy Manziel at number 11. In 2013, slipping, they picked Paddy Cripps up at pick 13. 2015, they had picks 1, 10 and 12 and picked up Jacob Wiedering, Harry Mackay and Charlie Curnow respectively. In 2016, they picked Sam Petrevski-Seton at number 6. In 2017, they picked Paddy Dow at number 3 and Lockie O'Brien at number 10. And most recently in 2018, they picked up Sam Walsh at number 1.
Oh my
On
god,
face
they was
value,
bad.
each of these picks are fine. Selecting star players in the draft is statistically proven to be incredibly difficult unless you're the Western Bulldogs. And this list has its fair share of careers that were crippled by injury and unfortunate circumstance. But where there is smoke, there is usually fire. And the fact that across this entire period they were unable to translate so many high picks into sustained success is definitely cause for concern. So let's move on to the next way you can add players to your list, acquiring those from other clubs via
how can you be this bad for a whole decade? And so they was bad, for basically a whole decade. You tell me they didn't have any type of success with those first, with them top 10 picks that they had. We've seen how many times they had, the number 1 pick, and they couldn't have any success. They just stayed mediocre for a whole decade. I don't know. That's coaching, not choosing the right players. The players are not performing. Management.
A trade. Here, Carlton has spent the last 2 decades loading up on high-profile talent, seemingly trying to hit the home run to push themselves up on the ladder. In 2008, they picked up Chris Judd, which cost them 2 top 5 picks, but you don't say no to an in-their-prime Brownlow medalist. In hindsight, questions could be raised whether the team was ready to have Judd push them up over the top. In 2009, they got Lockie Henderson in the Favola trade. In 2010, they got...
So, Lachie is not Lachi. It's Lucky.
Brock McLean, who they traded pick 11 for, and only got 73
How many
games out of
picks
him
they
over 5
traded?
years. In 2014, they acquired Dale Thomas, Sam Doherty, and Andreas Everett. In 2015, they picked up Christian Jacks and Daniel Gorringe from the Gold Coast. In 2016, they got Jed Lamb, Lockie Plowman, Liam Summer, Matthew Kennedy, and Reece Palmer.
So they
In
just
2017, Caleb Marchbank, Billy Smets, Jared Pickett, Darcy Lane. In 2018, they got Jared Garlett. In 2019, they got Alex Vasolo, a free agent signing only for 3 games, Will Setterfield, Nick Newman, and Mitch McGovern. In 2020, they picked up Jack Martin, and in 2021, they got Adam Sard and Zach Williams after missing out on Devon Smith, Dylan Shield, and Josh Kelly, paying big bucks for a player that was unable to make an impact worthy of his salary in his first year. And most recently, in 2022, Adam Chera. Again, evaluating all of these individually, there aren't
the
many
AFL
major
draft
problems.
has already happened.
Most of these trades seemed okay at the time, and Carlton rarely gives up too many assets in return. But given the sheer number of moves, it's damning that so few panned out where some teams have created success.
That's what I'm saying.
Think Hawthorn's moves for Jack Gunston, Sean Burgoyne, Brian Lake, Ben McAvoy, Port Adelaide's move for Aliir, the Bulldogs for Shane Biggs or Taylor Duray, Collingwood for Jack Crisp, or West Coast for Elliot Yeo, just to name a few. More significantly, the cost for recruiting these players goes past the assets given up. Every hour of coaching time, every second of on-field play, and every dollar paid to these players could be utilised on others. But in a desperate effort to please fans and rise quickly, high-profile additions have been consistently prioritised over what the league consensus value for these players is. The line constantly parroted was that Steven Silvani had the inside knowledge from his time at GWS. But really, why were GWS so happy to let all these players go?
Facts.
Surely if they were stars in the making, they wouldn't be so happy to let them walk out the door. And to top it all off, some of the most outstanding stalwarts of the Blues over the past decade have been the players that they didn't draft high. Pick 45, Cade Simpson, patrolled and organised the Carlton backline for almost the entire 20 years. Andrew Carrazzo, who was drafted twice in the rookie draft, who was one of the better two-way taggers in the AFL in his 100
How you get drafted twice?
And rookie listed Ed Kerno, who has been the only consistent driving force in the Carlton midfield since he arrived. They say that hard work trumps talent when talent fails to work hard. Perhaps Carlton would have been better off with a few more Cades, Andrews and Eds, instead of just punching in the next top 10 pick which another club is looking to get rid of. But let's say again we give Carlton another pass on these transactions, despite their inability to develop players that clearly had boatloads of talent. The talented players that they did get, have they at least managed to keep right? This is where it gets pretty miserable. It all starts with 7-time club leading goal kicker, 2-time Coleman medalist, 2-time All-Australian, Premiership player Josh Kennedy. Famously shipped off to West Coast in the Chris Judd trade, Kennedy has arguably been the best forward of the 2010s and a key pillar of the Eagles' 2018 Premiership.
Chris Kennedy.
Speaking of goal kicking, what about letting go of 2 times club leading goal kicker Eddie Betts, who would go on to his first of 4 All-Australian and 3 more club leading goal kicker seasons at Adelaide. And if the Blues hadn't helped out the Crows enough, giving them the best small forward of the 2010s, the Blues handed them a player who would play 184 games for the club and lock down the ruck position for the decade in Sam Jacobs. With Cruiser's unfortunate health issues plaguing his career, the Blues have been begging for a ruckman of Sauce's caliber.
So Carlton was trying to bait all in on draft picks, which they managed to get a lot of these draft picks and haven't done shit with them. And then they're trading off players who have had successful careers somewhere else. It's a lot of questionable decisions. It's a lot of questionable decisions by Carlton. It's like Luke Jackson, I think, Eddie Betts.
And they let him slip away for nothing. The fiery cult club icon Mitch Robinson, whose toughness and honest approach to the game is credited with changing the fortunes and culture of the hapless Brisbane Lions, was also a throwaway, deemed no longer a part of the club's future. Speaking of players who aid in culture, what about players who after leaving Carlton seamlessly became mainstays at the club with the best winning culture of the last 20 years? Now Geelong Cats, Zach Toohey and Lockie Henderson. Or how about Sean Greek, consistently on the edge of the Carlton best 22, but after a trade to Richmond, misses a total of 13 games in 8 years, and is a key pillar of the drought-breaking premiership.
That's a stud.
And lastly, while definitely at the end of his career, it would have been no pleasure to the Carlton faithful to see Jared Waite leading North Melbourne's goal kicking in 2015 on their way to a finals berth. Putting salt in the wounds, it also gifted us one of the best AFL graphics where in round 2 of 2015, the ex-Carlton forwards Waite, Kennedy, Garlett and Betts would kick 20 goals between them and have the 4 of them leading the Coleman medal. So players that are brought to the club struggled to
Karma's a bitch.
develop and flourish, but the players that leave and are let go all of a sudden discover career best form. The sheer volume of examples is completely damning of the Carlton system, and it can't be boiled down to simply luck.
Yeah.
So what could have such a dramatic impact on players? How about, say, a person in the box, in charge of the team on game day, during the week on the training track, and speaking in team meetings? The coaching carousel at the Carlton Football Club has been a feast for the AFL media, and with good reason. One of the highest profile clubs in the league, seemingly with the talent it needs to succeed, and seemingly always with a fresh face at their helm. Labelled a snake pit by ex-Carlton coach Dennis Pagan, the last 20 years have seen 8 coaches at the head of the Carlton Football Club, with 6 of those over the last 9 years alone.
Oh my god. What is going on? Oh my god, 6 coaches in the last 9 years.
Seemingly always with a fresh face at their helm. Labelled a snake pit by ex-Carlton coach Dennis Pagan, the last 20 years have seen 8 coaches at the head of the Carlton Football Club, with 6 of those over the last 9 years alone.
Well, that's the problem right there. How you just gonna get rid of a coach basically almost every freaking year? Like he has to build a culture. Like he has to build, like he has to build. Like you can't get rid of a coach once every year. You know what I mean? It's like the Lakers firing a coach every year. You know what I mean? Like you have to let him build, but at the same time, your moves off the field aren't great. You're in scandals, draft picks. People are leaving. Y'all having bad careers somewhere else. 6 and 9 years, 8 coaches, 6 and 9 years. That's an issue itself.
Alone. But hang on, coaches aren't selected by the players; they're selected by the club board. Does Carlton have stability at a management level?
And that's where you gotta start looking more at the board, like he said. You gotta start looking more at the board. The board doesn't know what the hell they're doing. It seems like they just don't know what the board don't seem. They don't know what they're doing. A lot of questions.
We already know of their deliberate, elaborate, and sophisticated actions to breach the salary cap at the beginning of the millennium. But surely the individuals responsible have been removed from the club. In 2013, Dennis Pagan was interviewed about the scandal and stated, "The people who committed the crimes walked away scot-free. The people who worked there were smashed in the face with a sledgehammer for 5 years, and it probably took 10 years to get it right. I don't think anyone at the AFL realised the impact it had on people's lives. They were ready to pick Daniel Wells and Brendan Goddard. The heart was ripped out of the club. Imagine that what if. Goddard, Wells, Judd, Murphy and Gibbs sending kicks down the throat of a rampaging Favola. The Carlton board has had its fair share of fresh faces across the decade, but most recently CEO Kane Little was sent on his way after only joining the club in 2017. Pagan was quoted after the sacking, "That's Carlton's biggest problem. Being united, getting behind the coach,
That's what I'm saying.
and backing him in."
But they don't do that though.
The chaos at this level at Carlton is clearly no secret in the league, and it's no surprise that two decorated and revered coaches in Ross Lyon and Alistair Clarkson both turned down the head job in 2022,
I don't blame them.
before it was accepted by incoming coach and Brisbane legend Michael Voss. Will he finally be the one that gets it right? So where do they go from here? For the last 10 years, Blues fans
Their
have
new
looked
coach,
at a collection
their
of
new coach
talent
is Michael Voss. Because we did react to Michael Voss.
they will be able to field and think, this year, we'll be able to become the sum of our parts and make a run at it, only to be disappointed time and time again. There is an entire generation of Collingwood supporters who have no idea why their parents have such a hatred for the Carlton Football Club, and it makes a lot of sense. A rivalry forged in a century of epic battles and lost grand finals has turned into a joke. While the current ledger sits tied at 128 wins apiece, this is only because Collingwood have won 7 of the last 10 and 17 of the last 22 in a completely one-sided affair. The craziest part is, despite everything they've been through, and despite the amount of conversations at the start of the year about how good Carlton could be, 2022 looks up. Fresh
Hopefully.
off 30 Brownlow votes in only season number 3, Sam Walsh could do even more insane things next year. A healthy Patrick Cripps has a chance to win every centre clearance he attends, and they have the reigning Coleman medalist waiting to receive in Harry Mackay. Throw in a rejuvenated Charlie Curnow, and Jacob Wiedering, who has every chance to stamp his name next to Stephen May and Harris Andrews as the toughest defensive matchup for a forward in the comp, not to mention the acquisition of one of the best young mids in the game in Adam Chera. Carlton have all the parts that they need, and their destiny is in their hands. Could this finally be the turning of the tide, or just another ripple?
They got some players, they trade for young guy. They got, the Coleman dude. I mean, they certainly got some players. They wasn't that great this year, but can Michael Voss get that team to come together and start performing? That's the question. That's the question. Can he get these guys performing to the ability in which they are supposed to be at? All in all, man, this is just crazy. This was just crazy. I gotta hear this part again.
Despite this, Carlton have had the honour 5 times to call out the first name off the board, which is more than any other team over this period, and even more than both expansion sides Gold Coast and GWS, whose draft concessions have been labelled as unfair.
That's crazy to me. That's crazy to me. But anyway, how can I forget Michael Voss's coaches from? We just did video over him last week. Anyway, you guys don't forget to like and sub. Comment down below, you guys' thoughts and reactions. I'll see you guys later.